Welcome to the show Gold Squadron Gays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars loving gays talk about and review their favorite Star Wars content while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
I'm your other host, Charles Rogers, and I have a theory, Bradley.
What's your theory?
And I've been deliberately not telling you this theory.
Oh, God. Okay.
Even though it's been swirling in the discussion space, because I wanted to tell you directly and get your take on it. I have a theory. Basically, I saw a tweet a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if I mentioned it on the show or not, but there was a guy who tweeted out that the twins' immaculate conception in the Acolyte, which is not the case, which is not what's going on, but he tweeted out that that was, quote, like telling Christians that there was another woman Messiah before, another woman immaculate conception before Jesus, right? What? Very stupid on it, sir. Very stupid tweet. I don't have the tweet up in front of me, but that basically was the gist of it. And then, the week after, we had the Ki-Adi-Mundi debacle. Do you know anything about the Ki-Adi-Mundi debacle?
Yeah, vaguely.
Okay, so Ki-Adi-Mundi in Legends is about 60 in The Phantom Menace. So he's born in 93 BBY. The Acolyte takes place in 132 BBY. Ki-Adi-Mundi is in the Acolyte, very briefly. Right? So, people got fucking mad about this, because he's not supposed to be born yet. So I went and tracked down immediately what the original primary source was, because I was like, was this published in a reference book? Was this mentioned in a novel and legend or a comic or anything? No. That factoid that he is 60 years old in The Phantom Menace comes from a 1999, as in predating Wikipedia, trivia guide CD called Star Wars Episode 1 Insider or something like that. That was just trivia that a bunch of people wrote about the characters, right? That's the original source. And then it was printed on a Topps trading card. And that's what people are mad got overwritten by the fact that he's in the Acolyte. You following me so far?
So far, so good, yeah.
So my theory is I kind of looked at it and I looked at the type of people who are getting mad about this. Mm-hmm. And realized that these are the type of people who several hundred years ago would be up in arms about any sort of doctrinal dispute. These are people who would have been super into the Crusades in the Middle Ages. And in fact, some of them, like some of the rhetoric that's being put out, kind of reminds me of that. So my thought is that these people, in their brains, they would never say they're doing this because I'll bet you a good chunk of them are either anti-religion or they're very, very whatever religion they are. My theory is that these people in their brains genuinely think of Star Wars as their religion. And any sort of change to that, any sort of alteration to the Holy Scriptures, any of that sends them into a fucking frenzy because they don't see it as a mythology, as a broader mythology that's being created. They see it as a strict canonical text that if you deviate from it, you are heretical. Their actions towards Kathleen Kennedy, definitely motivated by sexism, but they also make a lot more sense if you think of it as they don't see Kathleen Kennedy as a businesswoman making decisions about a franchise that they disagree with. They see her as a heretical pope who is issuing proclamations from the Vatican that they see as heretical.
You should write an essay on this. This
is my theory. And I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who thinks this. Like, I've seen other people who pay attention to theological discussion as closely as I do, because I grew up in the church. I just find this interesting. Point out that a lot of the rhetoric that's being used and a lot of the way that these people are approaching Star Wars is exactly the fucking same. They're religious fanatics.
That's really hilarious.
That's what's going on. That's my theory. And I wanted to get your take on it. That was 5 minutes of me explaining this theory that has nothing to do with bad territory, but I've desperately been waiting to tell you it.
No, I love it. It's kind of like if you think of like the Disney sequels, it's kind of a similar thing there where they're like, oh, Disney doesn't count. Like the Disney stuff, the sequel stuff doesn't count.
Certainly you can say, and you can be perfectly reasonable in saying that, okay, I just don't like any of the Disney stuff, so I'm just going to ignore it.
Right.
That's cool and fine. That's not who I'm talking about. That schism does exist, but I'm more talking about the people who are like, anytime Disney changes anything in their current canon, they're wrong.
Right.
And I see it more of like the debate over like what do these texts mean, and also what's canonical, what belongs in the canonical Bible. Like, I used to joke that the Council of Nicaea ruined Star Wars, because that was the big council where they basically decided a lot of stuff.
Right.
I used to joke that ruined Star Wars. I think it actually did. Because canon wasn't this, like, you have to understand, canon, quote unquote, wasn't as big of a deal. It was certainly a thing.
Right.
Prior to the sequels. But before Disney acquired Star Wars and had this major, like, reset, because even Star Trek kind of bent over backwards to get away with not breaking canon.
Right. They were doing time travel bullshit. And
they're doing time travel and alternate stuff, universe bullshit. Yep. Right. I think that's what's going on here. That's my take, is that psychologically, these people who are 35 and under, generally men, psychologically, they are conditioned to have some sort of attachment to a religious thing, but the thing they have picked is Star Wars.
Feel that.
It's really bizarre.
That's really bizarre.
That was a whole tangent, and Bradley's just staring at me like, I'm gonna cut that out of the podcast later.
Well, I don't even know how I'm gonna edit this whole first 10 minutes now, because you've like taken me on a journey, and I don't know where we're ending, and I need you to ride us back on this train, because I don't know what's going on.
You don't know what's happening?
You lost me.
I lost you. We have to go to some bad territory with this episode.
This week, we're talking about The Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 8, titled Bad Territory. Desperate for intel, Hunter and Wrecker track down a dangerous bounty hunter. Charles, what's one thing you liked about this episode and one thing you did not?
One thing I really liked about this episode was Fennec Shand. One thing I didn't like about this episode was that it was a side quest, mainly, and it also didn't really advance Hunter or Wrecker at all as characters. They're just kind of there and doing stuff, but that was made up for me by the Omega and Crosshair stuff. That sort of tipped the scale back for me. I actually wound up liking this episode a lot more the second time around, for a particular reason that I specifically noted to Bradley where we would get to. Anyway, Bradley, one thing you liked and one thing you didn't.
So I have a similar thing I liked and didn't like.
Of course you fucking do.
But it's a little bit more different. You just said, okay, so the thing you said you liked was Fennec Shand.
The existence of Fennec Shand.
The existence of Fennec
Shand. Her
Shand.
General aura, her vibe, her presence in my life.
So I agree. I think the one thing I really liked about this episode was just Fennec Shand being around. There's something about, honestly, the model, too, that is so good. Like, I don't know what it is, but she just, like, every time she's on screen, I feel like she commands presence, and, like, she just has, like, an aura about her that I really like. And I love that. It's just, I don't know. I just love her model. She's just so pretty. And I just like watching Ming-Na Wen, like, just on screen as a cartoon. Like, I'm just like, yep, that's her. Like, I just know it's her. So I love that about this episode. I love it's more focused on her story, too. And then one thing I did not like about this episode, I liked the parts where they were dealing with Omega and Crosshair. However, I felt they were really short, and they were kind of randomly, sporadically put in the episode in just random places. Like, it was just kind of weird where they were, and I didn't really care for them that much. I felt like everything that we saw in those little bits probably could have just been in one scene. Like, it just felt like it was a weird B story that I didn't really care about too much. But other than that, I mean, I still thought it was a good episode.
Yeah, surprisingly, I was down on it when I first watched it, but I liked it a lot more this time.
Section 1. We begin on Pabu. Omega is frustrated that she can't help the Batch, but Crosshair reassures her that laying low is helping until they find out what Hemlock wants for her. V. Genoa contacts the Batch and then lets them know that they need to find a bounty hunter for more information on M-Count. Hunter and Wrecker decide to find Fennec Shand for more info.
My first note is LMAO cable knit sweater. Look, one thing about this season is I love how they're giving Omega different outfits.
Sure.
I love how she's not just
a fashion girly.
Exactly. She's a fashion girly. She has to have her fits for everything. Because also, like, yeah, in the first season, they were really on the run. And so obviously she's going to be wearing the same clothes repeatedly, and also it makes things easier for the animators because they only have to animate her once, essentially. This time around, she's got much more variety in what she's wearing, because she has, like, I think we've seen the cable knit sweater in a previous episode, but I do really like every time Omega's in different clothes. And also it's a contrast to the Batch, who we almost never see in different clothes.
Yeah, they're literally wearing the same armor all the time. It must get like really stinky and gross because like what are they? They have like I think we've seen them before without the actual armor on, and it's just like black jumpsuits. And I feel like those probably get really gross like after a while.
Yeah, they probably have to be washed constantly.
Or they just have like a closet that has like 10 different pairs of the black jumpsuits, and that's all they have. Like it's just like a closet of the same exact outfit, and they just pick a new one every single day and they just put it on.
Ugh, straight men. I don't know.
No
I
variety.
know that I know there's going to be a lot of people mad at me for making that joke, but look, sometimes they give me straight man energy, and this is one of those times they give me straight man energy.
I feel that.
I hate to say it. I do love the exchange where Omega tries to give Crosshair like the line of, "Oh, Fee is a liberator of ancient wonders. She's a pirate."
He's like, oh,
Cross is
okay.
like, "Oh, great.
Yeah, he's
There we
he's
go."
like, got it. Okay.
He's like, I got it. I did look up, or I did some cursory Googling to try to figure out what distinguishes a Class 1 bounty hunter in particular.
Okay.
And all I found is that bounty hunters are, in this period of history, carefully regulated by the Bounty Hunters Guild under the Empire. So I couldn't find specifically what denotes a Class 1 bounty hunter. Presumably this is a big-ass deal bounty hunter. These are your Boba Fett's. These are your Bosks. These are your Dengars. These are probably not your Zuckuses, because that guy is a moron. But these are your, like, big deal, I'm on the ship in Empire Strikes Back bounty hunters. That's what I think a Class 1 bounty hunter is. And these are the only ones allowed to go looking for the M-count targets.
Yeah, because
It's
they have a
not
license,
anybody.
I guess.
Yeah, because bounty hunters in this period are regulated by the Empire. There has to be some sort of structure in place because now the Empire's got its seedy little fascist tendrils into every aspect of society.
Right.
And if you're going to exist, you have to play by Imperial rules. Bounty hunters stand to make a lot of money working for the Empire. Because the Empire, if you have one guy that's on the run, the Empire's not going to send a bunch of their people to do it. They're just going to get the Bounty Hunters Guild to do it.
Right.
So it behooves the Empire to allow bounty hunters to continue to exist in this period. So I thought that was interesting, but I couldn't find anything else. I will also say I love how Crosshair doesn't know who anyone is.
Right, because he just hasn't been around. Like
He hasn't been around.
Yeah, he has to be introduced to every single character that we already technically know. I just find that funny.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a theme in this episode. We're going to get to it at the end of the episode. But that he doesn't he missed so many adventures. He missed so much character development that the others had. And now he's racing to catch up. Like, he and Omega are on the same level now because she's had all these experiences for roughly the amount of time that he had experiences while he was a clone trooper in the Grand Army of the Republic. Speaking of Omega and Crosshair, I also think it's nice that Hunter goes to Omega to be like, talk to Crosshair, because she's the only one that's going to be able to convince him to do anything, and then also it works. Like, their next scene is him getting checked out by AZI. So I like that now everyone's aware that Crosshair and Omega have this special, like, sibling bond that's different than the others. That he will listen to her when she says stuff. Because they've been through this traumatic experience together.
Section 2. Hunter and Wrecker arrive at a space station frequented by bounty hunters. They find Fennec at a bar and negotiate to help her with a bounty in exchange for information that they need. Back on Pabu, AZ can't fix Crosshair's hand and suggests that the problem is more mental than physical.
So the space station is over a planet called Surya. We have never heard of it before, and we will probably never hear of it again. But that was according to the trivia guide. I love recording these episodes after the StarWars.com trivia guide is out because there's usually something in there that will answer a question for me. To jump ahead, we do not know the name of the planet that the bounty is hiding on. It's Space Louisiana, according to one comment I read.
I think I called it Orange Swamp Planet.
Orange Swamp Planet.
So I like Space Louisiana too. That's good.
I want to shout out also the pit droid bartender.
Okay. Just because.
Chef's kiss. Just because it's a pit droid bartender, dude. Like,
I love it. I like when
I love it.
I love when the I think it's like the two different people are fighting, and then the one thinks that she won, and then the pit droid hits her with the bottle and she faints. I thought that was funny too.
I also love how many aliens are in this scene.
Yeah.
Like in the background. That's the thing about Star Wars animation versus Star Wars live action. Live action, you have to put extra effort into the aliens, so all the scenes are like really human centric. Animation, because it's the same amount of work both ways, if you're going to model another fucking human, you might as well model a Bith. Might actually be easier. You might as well give us a Nautilin or something. Like, why the fuck not? So they walk up to Fennec Shand and she's chatting with this guy, and then they're like, we have an opportunity and we are desperate, and you basically stand to benefit much more from this interaction. She's like, okay, damn, get the fuck out. Love that. That guy's being voiced by Jonathan LaPal, by the way. Fennec Shand is being voiced by... You know who Fennec Shand is being voiced by. It's Ming-Na Wen, double Disney trifecta holder, Queen of the Universe, best human alive, Ming-Na Wen.
Absolutely.
Once again, returning to voice Fennec Shand. She got screwed in Book of Boba Fett. Give her a bigger role in Heir to the Empire.
I agree.
And now it's side quest time. Don't you love side quest time, Bradley?
You know, you can always tell when it's a side quest because it's always like I have information you need, but you need to help me first with the task that I have before I can give you the information you need. And it's like the same formula. I mean, every single time.
It's the same fucking formula.
Every movie, every show, every cartoon, whatever. Like they always use the same exact formula of quid pro quo, right? You help me, I help you kind of thing. And I get it. There has to be, I mean, obviously they have
because
to do this
it works.
because they have to. Yeah.
Because it works. Well, the thing about it is the reason it works so well is because it straddles the line between serial storytelling and episodic storytelling. It's one of the few devices you can use that works in both cases. So if you have an episodic show where there's this maybe a broader overarching plot over the course of the entire season or the entire show, then this is a really great episode setup to add stakes. And it also gets our characters potentially into a situation they wouldn't otherwise be in. So this episode is all Hunter and Wrecker become bounty hunters for a week. And that's because that works really well because it takes our characters and it puts them in a new situation that they're not familiar with. Now, do I think this situation particularly challenged them or changed them as characters in any way? No, I don't think so. But as a storytelling device, it works really well to do that. In a serialized show, it works well because it lets you continue the quote-unquote main plot. You don't feel like the episode did nothing because there's a carrot at the end of it. There's something at the end of this that we need. And so it allows us to have a one-off episode, but still feel like the episode contributed to the main plot somehow. So it's such a popular storytelling device for these types of shows, and particularly animated shows where you have a bunch of episodes, and then maybe you kind of know how your season's going to start. You kind of have a mid-season thing, and then you kind of have a thing at the end. And you want to feel like you're not spinning your wheels the rest of the time. This storytelling device, there's a reason it keeps showing up, and it's because it works really well in whatever story you're trying to tell.
I also noticed that, like, when she's talking about them and their special skills or whatever, she was like, so Hunter, you're a tracker, and Wrecker, you're good with demolition. And she's like, that's just what I need exactly.
Exactly.
And I was like, that's suspicious. That's weird. How does she know exactly? I mean, the tracking thing makes sense, obviously, because she needs to track someone. The demolition thing, however, I'm like, does she just have this preconceived notion that there's going to be bombs at some point that she needs to deactivate? Because, like, I don't know how she thought of that and was like, yeah, I need a
She's been tracking this guy for a while. I would think she probably has known from either reports of what happened to previous bounty hunters or her own experience that, yes, that she knew there was going to be demolitions involved somewhere.
Okay, I'll give it to her. I mean, maybe she just did her research and she just knows, but I find it very odd and interesting that she was just perfectly knew which two batch members she needed basically for this
Well,
trip.
Fennec Shand is also the smartest person in any show that she's in.
That's true.
Like, she is always the most competent person in the room. My next note is, AZ, babe, your bedside manner is awful.
He's like, I've done everything I can. So basically maybe it's just you.
There's something just wrong with you. And I'm like, AZ, God damn it, man. You cannot just tell this guy that. Like, what the fuck, dude? I love him. I am glad he's around and doing stuff. Because I forgot he was in this episode.
I forgot he was in this episode too. I was watching it and I was like, oh yeah, there he is. Like,
it is nice when he pops up.
Yeah. Because he's only in like one or two before this, and it's just random stuff. He doesn't really do much. So this is the first time we've seen him really truly doing stuff other than like holding a fruit bowl or something so that Crosshair can shoot it. I mean,
yeah, he's around and they're using his medical stuff, and they'll use it again in the season. So like, he's there and he's got something to do in this show. But it's not a lot, but it's something.
Section 3. In hyperspace, Fennec shares more information about the target. They arrive at an orange swamp planet to find him. They get a boat and begin their search. On the river, Hunter notices mines in the water, and Fennec comes up with a plan to disarm the bomb. Back on Pabu, Crosshair continues to practice shooting, but is still in his head.
So let's talk about Sylar Saris.
Okay.
The Slayer of Ordo Eris.
Please enlighten. I mean, I know Fennec kind of gave us an idea of what it was, but...
So basically, Sylar Saris' deal is that he is known as the Slayer of Ordo Eris because he killed a bunch of guys from the Haxian Brood for the Haxian Brood. The wording of Wikipedia is a little unclear. I feel like some people from the Haxian Brood hired him to kill other people in the Haxian Brood. We'll get to what the Haxian Brood are in a minute. Ordo Eris is a giant asteroid that the Haxian Brood, again, we'll get to in a minute, has a base on. And so this guy got into the Haxian Brood's home base and killed a bunch of people and now is on the run.
Okay.
This asteroid has only ever physically appeared in Jedi Fallen Order.
Okay.
But it has been mentioned in a few other Jedi places, Jedi Battle Scars and Jedi Survivor. So that's what that is. If you played the game The Arena that Cal fights in, that's Ordo Eris. Now, what are the Haxian Brood? The Haxian Brood's a crime syndicate.
Okay. That makes sense.
That's what it is. It's a bunch of criminals, notably in the Jedi series. All of the bounty hunters that come after you. You've never played these games, right, Bradley?
No, I have not.
Okay. In the game, occasionally, to keep things interesting, they will randomly throw bounty hunters at you.
Okay.
And these bounty hunters are from the Haxian Brood.
Oh.
That's what that is. So it's this crime syndicate that has personal beef with Cal Kestis because their leader, a guy named Sork Tormo, has personal beef with Cal Kestis.
Interesting.
So it's yet another of the 18 shit million crime syndicates that's running around in this period. It's a very lawless time, as the opening of Solo: A Star Wars Story says. And we will see more of crime syndicates in the upcoming Star Wars Outlaws. Anyway, Sylar Saris, because we have more about him, looks like a weird praying mantis guy.
Yeah, he's just like praying mantis alien guy.
Yeah, he is not the same praying mantis guy as appears in Star Wars: A New Hope.
Oh, interesting. Same species or no?
He is not the same species. That is called a Yamri, also known as the Hutt.
Okay, so there's just multiple
That's a
space
different
bugs,
there's multiple space praying mantises running around.
Okay.
Yes. We don't have time to get into all that, but he is not the same as that other thing.
All right. I like it. Also, it's not really relevant to the other scenes, so I can just mention it now. But later on, he talks and he speaks Basic. And I was like, I don't know if that would actually make sense for him to speak Basic. I think it would make more sense for him to speak an alien language, no?
We just got to run with it.
I mean, that was just a weird nitpick thing. I was like, why does he speak Basic? Like, he's a bug. Like, he shouldn't even be able to make those sounds with his mouth, like, theoretically. I mean,
look, you just gotta roll with this. We needed to be able to understand the words that he said, and these shows are allergic to subtitles, apparently.
For sure. I guess that goes into, like, technically with the cartoons, like, they're not, I wouldn't say they're geared towards kids, but they're definitely more kid friendlier.
They're wanting to be kids-ish television.
Right. Teen television, I guess you could say.
Like, maybe like older kids. Like, yeah. This would be like a Y7 show.
I was gonna say young adult.
It's intended for
yeah.
It's intended for the 8 to 13 demographic.
Sure, yeah.
Is who this show is for.
And they don't like to read, so they don't...
I know many kids that would disagree with that. They love to read, they just don't like being told to read.
True. There you go. They want to read on their own time.
Yeah, if you find something that they want to read, they will never stop reading it.
Right.
My next note is, oh yeah, Hunter is a tracker. It's nice when the show remembers that.
I mean, that's what he does.
That's what he does, and sometimes the show forgets.
They do,
It is
honestly.
nice when the show remembers. My next note, which I will read verbatim, I want Fennec Shand to tell me what to do.
Ridiculous.
The Batch seems mad about this, and I'm just saying, I don't have any reason to be mad about this. Bradley, it's time.
Okay.
For another edition of our favorite segment, Whose Goddamn White Baby Is That?
Oh, I was not expecting that.
The part of the show where I, a white person, watch The Bad Batch on my HD TV in the dark and tell you how how bad I think the skin tones are. And this one actually is not a skin tone bad segment. I did want to call out that the lighting, and I know it's just the lighting, but the lighting of Omega on the beach, really good.
Okay.
Like, she's looking much darker
Yeah.
on the beach than she is when she's in flat white lighting. And, like, it looks really good. She looks a lot like Rex.
Interesting.
Like, with the blonde hair.
I mean, they are related.
They are related. They're the same person.
Yeah.
But I looked at her, I was like, oh yeah, she is a clone of Jango Fett. Like, you can see it a little bit more in the beach scene.
I like that.
It's like, I get it now. I also like in this scene that Omega's basically like, I have an idea that you've got to trust me. And Crosshair grumbles about it, but he doesn't say he doesn't trust her.
Right. Section 4. While Hunter and Crosshair are disarming bombs, gators come out of nowhere and attack them. At night, the crew discuss Omega and their past with Fennec. Later, the targets find the secret hideout, and Fennec stays behind as a lookout, while Crosshair and Hunter locate the target. He attacks them, and during the scuffle, he gets away, but Fennec runs into him, and the group take him down together.
Before I dive into the big thing about this scene,
okay,
I do want to shout out the lines where somebody, I can't remember which one of them, tells Fennec, money is not everything, to which she responds, that's because you don't have any.
That's a pretty iconic line.
That's a pretty iconic line.
I do love that.
Not gonna lie. That's a pretty iconic line. All right, Bradley. It's conspiracy theory time.
Okay.
So, when this episode came out, it was absolutely fucking blasted by me, by a lot of people, for being like, we cannot fucking see this episode. This fight in the dark, like in the dark of the thing, was practically pitch fucking black when it came out. I remember watching it, again, HD TV in the dark, and basically being able to tell what was happening, but it was really hard.
Right.
Like, it was really fucking hard to tell. And, like, our friend Hope posted screenshots on Twitter and was like, this is what it looks like. And people thought they were black squares.
I need to go look at those screenshots because I want to compare it to what it looks like now.
So we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in a second. So I didn't do that, but I was looking up, I was noting on my next note, which I'm skipping ahead to, I can see better on my computer in the dark, but they might have tweaked it. Here's my thing. I was on Sylar Saris's Wikipedia page because I went on that whole tirade about him earlier.
Right.
I'm just going to post image of him that is on the page.
Okay, I'm opening
that they have cut out of the episode.
Okay, I see.
Okay, you see how fucking dark that is?
Right, with like barely any detail, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to send you another image of his, and this is from the official StarWars.com databank. I confirmed this is in the trivia guide. Now look at that image.
Much more.
You see how the second image is much lighter?
Yeah.
Like, you can clearly see what's going on. You can clearly see what he looks like.
Right.
I think that without telling anybody, they went back and lightened this episode. And so if you watch it now, you can see what's going on. But at the time, you couldn't see it. And people aren't rewatching the show.
Right.
So nobody's realizing the episode is much lighter now.
Except for us.
Except for us, because we did it after the fact. But yeah,
because I didn't have a problem this time. Yeah, so that's why I didn't remember that, honestly.
Yeah, I had no problems, and I was watching it. Like, I had to turn the lights out because it was a little dark, and there's certain parts, like the fight at the end, where I really struggled to tell exactly what was going on, but I could basically make it out.
Right, because I think in this section, especially, this is where it starts to get nighttime, so that's where it's like truly actually dark. And I didn't really have an issue with it this time. I don't remember it last time, like the first time I watched it, because I just don't remember, but this, I definitely, like, I was waiting, I was looking out for the darkness. I was like trying to like be like, okay, where does Charles see the darkness? Like, I'm gonna wait for it.
Where am I gonna get to? Where am I? Because I was watching it like, I need to remember the exact moment that I was like, this is so fucking dark, I can't see. And I watched it, and I was like, oh, I can basically see this. I'll bet you they lightened it. And that way I went to, that's when I went to the Wikipedia and saw that the image they have of Sylar is like a black silhouette.
Right.
So I really want to compare screenshots. Actually, give me a second here.
Oh, you know what?
What?
I've got a breaking news for you.
You've got breaking news for me. All right.
Okay, so there's a website that I use for our social media, right? And it
Okay.
has all the screen caps for the episode. I'm gonna
Okay.
send you a link
Okay.
of just a random part of the episode, and you tell
Okay.
me if you can see anything in this episode because this was posted literally probably days after the episode came out. This website likes to put all the screen caps on. So I want you to see what the episode looks like.
Holy fucking God. Yeah, they lighten this.
They had to. They had
They
to,
lighten
'cause
this. I am
I can't
looking
see
at
anything.
screenshots. Yeah. I'm looking at screenshots that someone took.
Like unusable. Like I would never be able to use
Unfucking
this.
usable.
Yeah.
I'm looking at walls of black. I can't see a thing.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, though they lighten this episode.
They definitely did. That's
Because
not even a
originally it was
conspiracy theory.
unfucking watchable.
That's
the
so
first time.
crazy.
And I don't think anybody's talking about it because I don't think anyone's rewatching this show.
I know, and it's sad because now it looks really good. So it's like, hey,
Here's the thing. Star Wars, part of why Star Wars needs to slow the fuck down and stop releasing new content is to let people revisit their old content. And so this is a great example because, like, yeah, they definitely went back and fixed this episode and they didn't say anything about it. At least not that I can find.
yeah, it's weird. You'd think that they'd be like, hey, there was an issue with the lighting or whatever this episode, so we re-released the episode. Please
They
watch it.
literally did that in Tales of the Empire. One of the guys who worked on the episode went on Twitter and said, hey, we are sorry. There is a lighting and contrast issue in episode 4. If you rewatch it, it should be correct.
Right. Like, I don't understand why they can't just say, like, hey, this is the thing that happened. We're sorry. Like, we fixed it. And then just say you fixed it. Like, I don't know why. Like, it's so annoying.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that they definitely edited this and nobody's talking about it. And like this episode jumped up so much in my estimations now, like on my list, because I can actually see it. And so I'm like,
I
yeah,
agree.
this episode's fun. This episode's fun when I can fucking see what's happening in it. Because it was a fucking joke when they released it originally. And now they've released it and it looks good. It's fun. The fight is really fun to watch.
Right. Because you can see what's going on.
And nobody knows that because they're constantly bombarding us with new content. And so nobody's putting this stuff on. Like just everybody's talking about the Acolyte. And so I'm kind of glad that they're scaling back on that. Like, I'm curious what the next animated thing's going to be because they're definitely going to do one, but they're scaling back on that. So it's good because we need to let a lot of this content breathe and also like revisit it.
Right.
Not a big fan of the patching of media after it comes out, but in this case, I feel like it was necessary. Because this fight is fun. Anyway, I have no notes on the fun fight because I just wanted to talk about how dark it was.
I was going to say, I mean, really, all that we know is like before you couldn't see the fight, I guess. Now we can, and it was decent. They fight him, they find him, they catch him, done. Like, all right, that was fun. Like, they did their whole side quest in one scene.
Yep, there we go. Okay, let's move on to the next section.
Section 5. On Pabu, Omega makes Crosshair meditate. Back at the space station, Fennec tells the pair that she will give them more info from her contact after she delivers the target. On her ship, she speaks to a mysterious contact who takes an interest in locating the bat.
My next note is, thank God I can see Crosshair and Omega. Tongue in cheek, because I could see the episode pretty well this time around.
Right.
But previously, like, it was like, oh, I can see them. This makes sense.
Every time it jumps back to Pabu, you're like, oh, there's light.
I love that they're really dwelling on the fact that Crosshair missed out on these experiences. A lot of Crosshair's journey in this season has been not just about reintegrating, but about like coming to terms with the choices he made and the consequences of those choices. In the last 2 episodes, it was that he isn't necessarily going to be trusted by people who aren't his squad because of what he did. And in this episode, it's all about how he's learning from Omega because she's had experiences that he couldn't be a part of. So I really love that the Crosshair writing in this season is so good. Why did he quickly become one of my favorite characters in the show when I did not care for him in the first 2 seasons?
Yeah, I don't know. He's definitely, honestly, if I look at all the batch members, like I exclude Omega because I mean, I know she's a part of the batch, but I don't really think of her as like the main like bad batch. I think of just the actual clones. I think Crosshair is my favorite out of all of them, just based on everything that we know about all of them, even like including Tech and Echo. I just feel like, yeah, like Crosshair is the one that just has the best story out of all of them.
I mean, really, at the end of the day, yeah, he does. I love what they're doing with him this season. My only note, and it is my final note for the episode, but my only note on the scene where Finnick talks to Hunter and Wrecker is LMAO, she pulls up the ramp with Hunter still on it. And he has to like jump backwards off of it. That was really funny to me.
I thought it was really funny that she's like, you guys helped me, and I'll give you your information later.
When
and
I
it's like,
have
oh,
it.
okay.
When I've got it.
She's like, if I feel like doing it. They're like, how can we, like, they're like, wait, like, what if you, like, how can we trust you or whatever? She's like, you're just gonna have to trust me.
You're
Like,
just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I love it.
I wonder who she's calling. We'll find out.
Oh, I know.
For the viewers, listeners, next week.
Final thoughts. I thought this was a fun side quest episode thing. Like I said before, I like the scenes with Crosshair and Omega. I just don't really thematically know how they kind of squeeze in with the side quest. Doesn't really kind of match up to me. Also, the side quest is very basic. Like it's like not even, there's not much to it. They don't really have too many hurdles. Like, yeah, it was the bombs and the gators, but that was about it. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the bombs and the gators.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
which
it was
is
just
the most Louisiana thing I can think of. Like,
yeah, Space Louisiana is an interesting choice. I don't understand why they chose Space Louisiana, but there you go. And it was an okay episode. I don't think there's anything wrong with the episode per se. I think it was great. I think Fennec definitely heightens the episode more, just her presence. But other than that, like, because I think if you would have done a random bounty hunter in this and not make it Fennec, if it was just like a random person, I would not have liked this episode at all. I would have been like, this is dumb. I don't like it. But with Fennec there, it definitely helped.
Yeah, my final thought on the episode is that it is massively elevated by the presence of Fennec Shand and the voice work of Ming-Na Wen. It is a very, very competently written episode from Matt Miknovitz and a competently directed episode from Nathaniel Villanueva. That's my thoughts on it. It was pleasing to watch with my eyeballs. I had fun. Thank God I can see what's happening in it now. Next week, we will be covering what, Bradley? What are we doing? What are we doing? Tell me which episode we're doing.
We're doing probably our most anticipated episode, which is The Harbinger.
Season 3, episode 9?
9, yep.
The Harbinger.
And for the record, when they sent out the screeners, they sent out, I think, everything up to episode 8 was like the cutoff. So no one had seen episode 9 yet. All the reviews and everything about season 3, everybody had only seen up to Bad Territory. And so episode 9 was the one that they kept like as the new, like the only thing that no one's ever seen yet. So I'm very excited to see and talk about that episode because it's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good time. Pluggables. Bradley does reality TV shows. You can find them on Peacock and Bravo. We only promote one at a time to keep my life easy, and that is The Circle Season 6 on Netflix. Bradley, you just wrapped something that you can't talk about yet, but that is coming
probably
soon.
Soonish, spring, I want to say.
Spring-ish.
Yeah, maybe. Unless they randomly decide to do it this fall. I don't know, but we'll find out.
On the me side of things, you can also find me on the Star Wars TTRPG podcast, For Light and Dice. You can find gay thriller / mystery books that I write on Amazon Kindle. You can find those at Beach House Studios. The Beach House is 1 H and 1 word. There is an announcement coming about that next week, I think. And if you're listening to this, either the week that you're listening to this or the week after, there will be an announcement regarding that series. Also, I will be at Fan Expo in Denver, Colorado, the weekend of July 4th, so the holiday weekend. I will be in Denver. If you see me wandering around Fan Expo, feel free to say hi. Bradley will not be at Fan Expo in Denver. Bradley is staying home where he needs to be.
I don't want to leave my house for a long time. I've been traveling too much. I literally just came back from Key West on another show, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to travel anymore. Let me stay in Atlanta and film stuff, please.
Yeah, but if you are going to be at Fan Expo in Denver and you are wandering around and you happen to see me, feel free to say hi. that is it. Next week, we'll be completely fucking unhinged, and Bradley, go ahead and run the socials. Thank you for listening to this episode of Gold Squadron Gaze. Did Charles fuck something up? Email us at goldsquadrongaze@gmail.com to let us know. You can also find us on Twitter at @GoldSquadGaze, and you can find us on TikTok and Instagram at @GoldSquadronGaze. You can also find us on YouTube at our Gold Squadron Gaze YouTube channel, where we post full episodes of this show. Finally, if you liked the show, don't forget to rate us and give us a review on your favorite podcast platform. That allows other people to find our show. As always, thank you for listening to Gold Squadron Gaze, and we'll see you next week. And then the other thing that's really funny is when the Veilguard was announced, people got mad, Bradley, that Dragon Age, famously from the gay sex porn studio, that's what everybody was calling BioWare back in the 2000s, because they did, well, it was like the porn studio or whatever, because they would do sex scenes in Mass Effect. And then in Dragon Age Origins, you could fuck a man as a man, and that was a big deal.